it's really interesting in this company, especially in prepaid legal. Like I was mentioning earlier, we are a little different. You know, what I have found in everything in life, your strengths and your weaknesses are right next to each other. Have you noticed that? You know, for me, one of my strengths is I'm kind of strong, aggressive. That's a problem for me at times too, okay? And so your strengths and weaknesses are right next to each other. And what I mean by that, let me give you an example of the network marketing world and some things that work out there, okay? There's a bunch of companies out there that have gone real big with noni juice. You know, the little elixir that fixes everything. You know, got a wart on my nose. Take the noni juice. You know, I got hemorrhoids. Noni juice. I got an ingrown toenail. Noni juice. You know, my hair's falling out. Noni juice. My wife left me. Noni juice. I mean, you know, all they know how to do is you sign up for $40 a month noni juice, and that's all they know how to do, and it works, and the company takes off, right? That's happened a lot because all they know is one little thing. It's called noni juice. No matter what you ask them, it's noni juice. Okay? Now that's their strength. Guess what their weakness is? It's noni juice, okay? Eventually, you know, it takes off and it works for a while and the company goes along and they have some success, but eventually it's not a solid product or business model that you can really get fertile ground on. And eventually what happens, because it's so easy to do, guess what happens? Another noni juice shows up, right? And all of a sudden this little company that took off, that grew to $50 million in sales or so, and some people are having success, all of a sudden instead of one noni juice, there's now 20 noni juices, right? And so all of a sudden, now all the noni juices have the best noni juice, right? You know, we got noni juice plus, you know, CLA. We got noni juice plus, you know, whatever, the ingredient they added to it, right? And so now instead of you have one company doing $50 million, you have 20 companies or 30 companies doing $1 billion. But no company's growing, right? And then what happens is this market category goes from $50 million with one company and to $1 billion category, but nobody's growing in any of these companies because they just keep, you know, separating and creating other companies, but it creates $1 billion market category. Guess who notices it? The retailers. Now all of a sudden, Walmart's got noni juice, and now they're dead, okay? That happens over and over and over in the industry. What is their strength? They're so simple, it duplicates and works. What's their weakness? They're so simple, they are duplicated by other people, right? People, what is our strength? Our strength is we have a real product. It's taken us 30 years to build. We have a real market category that we're attacking. Okay, like I just talked about earlier. We have a product that, though, has to be sold. Okay, it has to be sold. That is our strength, and yet it's our weakness. What I mean by that is you've got to be, if you're going to build an organization, you're going to have to work real hard, especially in prepaid legal, to keep it simple so that it will duplicate. Because this is a real company and a real product, okay? I'm just telling you that what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to really, really, really focus on mastering the mundane, because it's very easy to complicate it. Very easy to complicate it because we just don't have noni juice. We have a real product. We have real product categories. We have real marketplaces. We have different marketplaces. And you're going to have to be able to do that's our strength and our weakness. And I'll talk about that later on. I just want you to be aware of that, okay? But as you build your business, recognizing that, I don't care what you do, whether it's you're building your organization, you're working group, you're working a small business, what you're doing, everything you let into your organization, in my opinion, has to be able to go through these filters, what I call the laws of duplication. This is very important to me, okay? And what I mean by laws of duplication, there's basically, in this business, you're always doing one of three things. You're approaching people to get in the business, you're approaching people to buy the product, or you're approaching people to train them, okay? To train them. Regardless of what those approaches are, and those are the only three approaches you do in this business, regardless of what they do, they have to go through what I call this filters of the laws of duplication. This is the biggest thing for me. I do not let anything in, whether it's the way I approach people to get them to see the business, whether I approach people on how to sell the product, or when I approach people on how to train them, okay? It has to go through these filters. And here's what I mean by that. Everything I do, remember, again, starts up here, starts with you, and what you do is going to determine whether it duplicates, okay? And what you do sets in motion what's going to go one level below you, 2 levels below you, 3 levels below you, 4 levels below you. But what you do is not persistent, consistent, what you do is not simple and duplicatable, it will never move away from you, okay? So it has to go through these filters. Number one, everything I do has to be able to work 5 to 10 levels below me. It has to be able to work with somebody I don't know. You understand? You've got to begin with the end in mind. You want a huge organization where you don't know the vast majority of them. I don't want an organization where I know everybody. Right? Don't you want a large organization that's moved away from you, is in the thousands, where you just don't know everybody? Or do you want to keep that little teeny organization where you all know each other? Okay? What do you want? An organization that moves away from you. So I want an organization that whatever I do will work 10 levels away from me, by somebody I don't even know, 1,000 miles away from me. If your organization is all sitting, you've been in business for a couple of years and your business is sitting right in your market, guess what? It's what you're doing that's not letting it move away from you. It's not your organization, it's not the company, it's not the product. It's what you're doing that's not letting this organization move away from you, because what you're doing probably is so darn dependent on you, it can't leave you. It's like the child that you just tie to you with an apron strings and they can never leave you, okay? You've got to do something that can move away from you. And here's the fourth one. It has to work when a dud does it to a stud, okay? Because think about it. You got somebody in your organization 10 levels below you, you don't even know, they're in Chicago, and they're about ready to go out and approach somebody who's a stud, and they're a dud. There's this 23-year-old kid, just got out of college. That means he's a dud, but he's just kind of nervous, hasn't really done anything. He's about to approach the man across the street who's a vice president of a bank that he's always admired his entire life. You got to give that person a chance. Give that person a chance, okay? So when I talk about how you approach, I'm going to talk about ways that give you a chance, on whether it's approaching that person, selling a membership, okay, or training that person. And so it has to work in depth. It has to work with people I don't know. It has to work thousands of miles away from me. And it has to work when a dud approaches a stud. Because don't you want to have a chance to get that stud? See, I see these people train these elaborate presentations on recruiting people, you know, and they're good. Trust me, people, when I got in, everybody in my organization in Albuquerque wanted me to meet with the studs in Albuquerque. Because, Jeff, with your background, you'll relate to them. And I go, it's great. I'll sit down with them. I'll go to lunch with them, okay? And I'll talk them into the business, but we'll win the battle and lose the war. Remember I said, don't let it start a way that it can't move away from you. Because what are they going to think now? They're going to think, well, for me to do this, I got to be able to do what Jeff just did to me. And I'm going to need Jeff to get going. And guess what happens? It's like the insurance agent in the country club. The organization never leaves them, right? You're going to have to learn to use your skills, your ability to communicate and motivate and all that to drive the organization, not your ability to blah, 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 blah. And I've seen people come in who are great at doing presentations, and the organization never leaves them, okay? So I mean, you've got to understand this. And let me give you a demonstration of this. This is another filter. In the approach mode to sponsor somebody in this business, I want, when I'm doing it to somebody, okay, when I'm approaching somebody, that person's watching me present to them. I want them to say to themselves, I can do what you're doing. I want them to say to themselves, I have the time to do what you're doing. I want them to say to themselves, and I wouldn't mind doing what you're doing to my friends, family, and neighbors. So you take somebody and you get them doing this elaborate presentation on trying to get them into business, guess what happens? Person's watching it, and you might even have it down, okay? They're going, I can't do what you did. I don't have the time to do what you're doing, nor do I really want to do what you're doing to my friends, family, and neighbors. And so they don't do it. I want a person to look at me and say, I can do that. I got the time to do what you're doing, and I wouldn't mind doing what you're doing to my friends, family, and neighbors, okay? This is why later on I'm going to talk about always leaning on the tools. Always leaning on the tools and trainings done by trainers to drive your business, because that is duplicatable and it'll work and moving away from you, okay? I'm going to talk about that. To me, that's everything. That's all I ever leaned on is tools and tools and events, tools and events, tools and events. I became the promoter, okay? I put all my energy in promoting people to look at a tool, or promoting people to get to an event where they can get trained on something, okay? But that is what in my opinion, you got to become very, very good at. And here's kind of a good litmus test of something. In sales, the number one thing, in my opinion, that determines whether you're doing sales right is whether you're getting referrals, right? Why would a person give you referrals? Because they feel comfortable with you. See, if I take somebody and teach them this elaborate, aggressive presentation, what's going to happen? The person is going to say, I can't do what you're doing. I don't have the time to do what you're doing. I don't really want to do what you're doing, my friends, family, neighbors. And so they might say no. Well, a no just means, no for now, a yes is coming. It usually takes 5 to 7 exposures to turn a no into a yes. That's in everything. Okay, but I want to get referrals. Well, if I go to ask them for referrals, they're going to say no. I don't want you to do what you just did to me, to my friends. But if what I'm doing is very simple, very unobtrusive, using third-party tools, guess what? That will work 5 or 10 levels below me. It'll work with somebody I don't even know. I can get that taught to them. It will work 1,000 miles away from me without me. And a dud has a chance approaching a stud with a third-party tool or training, do they not? And when that's happening, the person can say, I can do what you're doing, because anybody can, be the messenger, not the message of a tool. Anybody can be the messenger, not the message of a training, right? Anybody can promote into things. Okay, I can do what you're doing. I have the time to do what you're doing, and I don't have a problem doing what you're doing to my friends, family, neighbors. So I guess what I'm trying to say to you people, this is why when I get to the 10 core commitments, and I'm going to try and melt it down to the simplest thing, you've got to learn what your main job in this business is. You are the messenger. You are a promoter. You are the commercial. On TV, there's a commercial, it's 30 seconds, and it promotes the show that's 30 minutes. Keep it in that order. That is something that everybody can do. That is something that can be persistent, consistent. That is something that can duplicate in depth, okay? And so whether you're out approaching somebody on the company, approaching somebody on the membership, or approaching somebody on the training, I want to be promoting to a third-party tool or promoting to a third-party training at all times, okay? Now, before I move on, I want to kind of qualify that. I'm talking about getting somebody started. This is where people can kind of get confused, I think, with my training. I eventually want a person to be able to go out and be better at selling the product, okay? We have what we call advanced product trainings. There's one coming up next month. We're having an advanced product training the first of every month. I think it's very important that every person that gets started in the company goes to the advanced product training. Because advanced product training is basically taking our trainers from group school, which we know if somebody goes to group school, that they have 15 times the more recruits than somebody who doesn't go. Somebody goes to group school that has 20 times the membership sales than somebody who doesn't. Main reason is they made a commitment. They stayed in. Some people just get in and get out. That takes the numbers up. The other part, they get in there and they spend 2 days in a school. That takes the numbers up. But the biggest thing is they learn the product, in my opinion. What we're doing is with advanced product training is we take that product training out and we're putting it on the first Saturday of every month. I don't know if you know that or not. That's starting this month, next month, and it's going on forever, okay? But I want, when somebody gets in, I want to get them in doing something they can do. When they eventually get to that, then they will start evolving into what? Being a better and better themselves selling the product. But what I see too often is we try and get somebody to do something immediately day one that they can't do. What I can get somebody to do is sharing the never before, never again video. I can get somebody immediately sharing equal access. I can get somebody immediately sending people to the internet and looking at the company for the opportunity or looking at the product. I can get somebody immediately looking at a brochure on the company or looking at a brochure on the product, okay? Those are things I can get anybody doing right away. As they evolve 90 days in the business, a year in the business, of course they evolve into a better presenter. But this is where the trick is. Do you let that get in the way of building your business? Because all of a sudden you know the company real well and you know the product real well, so you want to start doing what? Teaching to everybody everything you know because it makes you feel good, right? And so you start taking your little teeny-weeny babies. It's like you're trying to take your little baby that you just gave birth to, and because you graduated from college, you're sitting there reading them college books. They need just little teeny-weeny stuff to get started. And once they get going and they believe they can walk and they believe they can talk and they believe they can be independent, you give them more and more and more. We bring people in this company and we put them in graduate school and they're in diapers, if you know what I'm saying. The key is getting your organization started in a duplicatable fashion. As they go along, they will step into these other trainings in advance, okay? But you, again, when I talk about protect your organization, you're going to have to learn how to tell them to shut up when a new person is around. And let that new person grow the way that they did. This is one of the biggest, remember strengths and weaknesses? See, we just don't have noni juice. All we ever do is go, noni juice, noni juice, noni juice. We have a real company with real product, with real sales, but that is our strength, but it could be our weakness if you cram that down the little babies when they're in their diapers. What I want to do is I want to ask people to do simple little things. It's Getting Started Right book, using third-party tools and third-party training, and that's it. Okay, nothing more until they get started. Okay, so the laws of duplication, in my opinion, are one of the biggest things. You got to learn how to treat this like a business. I love this little chart. Actually, this is my chart. It came up with a long time ago, and everybody now says it's their chart, but I didn't ever see it until I did it. Okay, so, but you know, again, back to you here. You're going to go out and try five people. Okay. And you're going to work with them, helping them find their 5, okay? That's their goal. Remember, you, 5, 25, just your little model, okay? What's going to happen in this business, and I'm real serious about this, and treating it like a business, what's going to happen, it kind of has this weird life to it, or weird look to it. As you go out there and start working with this organization and going down this organization, looking for that one strong person, okay? And that's what you do. You might sponsor somebody, and they are, they don't. They sponsor somebody, they are, they don't. They sponsor somebody, they are, they don't. All of a sudden, that one's it. That's who you jump in with, right there. Because guess what? Once they learn it all, they will move it down for you. You just got to get them, and they'll move it down. The ones in between will figure it out because all of a sudden they want to figure out what's going on because they want to get a piece of what's taken off, okay? So what I do is I just keep on going down a leg until I find that one. Very rarely do you sponsor that one. I didn't. I'd say well over half my income came from people I didn't know. It came from people I knew who they knew. Okay, way over half my income did not come from people I sponsored, but from the people I sponsored who they sponsored. I kept looking until I saw one, and I locked in, and that's a person who became my workout partner. Okay, that's one person who became one of those core people. So when I talk about this one person that's 5, and that one of those 5 might be 5 levels deep on me. Okay, that's who I locked in on. Okay, so I go down a leg, I'm working until I find that one. Then I go down that leg, and the next leg I go to find that second one. Well, it's kind of funny how it looks. I call this time money. This is time, and this is dollars over here, money. As you do that first one, look at all the time you put in versus the money. Okay, it looks like a typical business. You put in a lot of time at first, and you don't make a lot of money. The second one, it gets a little bit better. The third one, it gets a lot better. Fourth one, you start getting excited. The fifth one, you can't stand yourself. Because the time you're putting in versus the money you're making is ridiculous. But the reason most people don't get to this, again, is because they don't do what's duplicatable, okay? But quite honestly, it really looks more like this. You're like this, you go like this, and then it turns and goes like that. It's like everything in life. That's how business looks. And what I'm trying to say is you've got to treat this like a business. The biggest problem I see is people get involved in a company, and they work it for 90 days, and it doesn't work, and so they think it doesn't work. People, it's crazy. I mean, my favorite example is franchising. In franchising, if you want to make $100,000 a year, which I think every person here's goal should be at least make $100,000 a year, prepaid legal, and I think you can do it, okay? Because I know a lot of people who have way less going for them than you who are making it, okay? Plus, I just believe God puts everybody on this earth to have what you want, okay? I think God's a tricky God, puts these weird roadblocks out there and tries to mess with you a lot, okay? Kind of to see if you deserve it or not, okay? But I really believe you do deserve it if you want it. But, you know, the rule of thumb in franchise, if you want to make $100,000 a year, you got to invest $500,000. $500,000. That's the rule of thumb. The number one franchise show is in Washington, D.C. every year. You go there, and they have these huge coliseums. They have the A franchises, the B, the C, and the D. It's like the $1 million plus, the $500,000, the million, the $250,000 to the $500,000, all the way down, okay? And they're all there. It's the franchise. It's a huge show. You go to that show, the rule of thumb is you have to invest 5 times more than you want to make, okay? So you're going to make $100,000, you got to invest $500,000. What you'll sign is a disclosure statement. You won't believe it when you look at it. Has everybody ever been through that? This disclosure statement is like this thick. It's the most legal jargon you ever read. And all it is, basically, you're signing off a document that says that you probably will fail. Okay? And that's what it says. Because they're just trying to inoculate themselves from the lawsuits. It says, we're no good, you're no good, this is a stupid idea, it'll never work. It really, it is the most negative thing you've ever seen that you have to sign before you plop down your $500,000, okay? They all tell you in that document it's going to take you 3 to 5 years to get your money back, maybe, and most of them don't get their money back, okay? But when somebody puts down that $500,000, do you think they don't go to work hard? I'll promise you this. You go find somebody who just bought a franchise for $500,000, and you work prepaid legal the next 5 years as hard as they work that little stupid hamburger stand or whatever it is. over the next 5 years, you'll blow them away in income 5 years from now, blow them away. But in the 6th year, if they want to make that money, guess what they got to do? Work just as hard as they did year 1 through 5. You're going to have what going for you? If you did this right, you got persistence and consistency working for you, you got depth working for you, and all of a sudden, most of the people making you money are thousands of people you don't even know, okay? You have time and freedom, okay, which is the hugest asset we have. But you got to ask yourself, honestly, do you treat this like a business? Do you really honestly treat this like a business? And the biggest problem we have is the price of entry so low, you don't take it seriously. And you got to ask yourself, I'll just tell you one thing, having gotten killed in that solar company, and having been broker than I was Gorgeous George after 12 years of giving my life, and seeing this thing and sawing that thing, I treated this thing deadly serious, okay? I gave it every ounce of thinking, business, physical energy I could give it. And I'll talk about later, it was only 15 hours a week I could do it because I was running another company when I got started, okay? Do you treat this like a business? The thing is, you got to give yourself time. What if it takes you 5 years to do that? What if it takes you 5 years, the first year to find one? What's the number one way that allows you to find one? You are one. You understand? That's the number one thing that allows you to find people is you become one. Remember I said the number one thing you got to become is you here. I put the circle around the one. You become one. You're not going to find one until you become one. The first one you got to find is yourself and doing all these things, okay? You become one, and all of a sudden you help them. You start finding yours. What if it takes you a year to become one? The second year to find one, and the third, then, what if it takes you 5 years to do that? Is that a big deal? I was in Miami some years ago on my boat. I have a boat, I keep it in Florida, and I was pulled up in the Miami Marina, and it was a fun story, and got out of the boat, walked up to this little tiki bar, was sitting there, there's some other big boats there, and there's a gentleman sitting there, and I started talking to him. And I was saying, what do you do? Yak, yak, yak. And I said, what do you do? And he goes, I'm Subway franchises. And I go, Subway? I go, you saw you do the Subways in South Florida? And he goes, no. And I go, Florida? And he goes, no. And I go, well, what are you doing? And he goes, I'm Subway franchise. I go, you're Fred DeLuca? And he goes, yeah. And I go, this is the guy that started Subway franchise. I go, wow, So I get there, I sit there, talk to Fred, because I knew I'd read about him and what he'd done. And, his story is no different than everybody else's story. He started out with this little idea, and he was sitting there making little sandwiches across from a college. That's what he did, okay? And then he got a little better at it, and he got another one going, then another one going. But he'll tell you, that was 30 years ago. It took him 20 years before he even came out of the ground. It took him 20 years just going along like this, and all of a sudden it took off. And he was saying, he goes, everybody thinks you're successful instantly. People don't realize what you got to go through. People, that's the same way in your business. You got to treat this like a business. In business, just like there is in life, there's a natural harmony you go through. You plant seeds, then you cultivate, and then you harvest. Biggest problem we have in this business, everybody wants to go from start to harvest. They don't want to plant their seeds and cultivate. And I cannot believe the number of people I see in this business who've been in it 6 months to a year, and because it's not paying all their bills or making more money than the job that they've been in for 10 years, okay, or making more money in the career they've been in for 20 years, and they're complaining about it, okay? You got to treat this like a business. You got to give it time to grow for you. You got to give it time to plant your seeds. You got to allow yourself time to cultivate. You got to allow yourself time to get to the harvest, okay? I just can't emphasize that enough. And that's why I say in 10 Core Commitments, be here a year from now. Because I just know I haven't had one person in my career, in those other companies and other products that I've ever worked with, I haven't had one person who honestly, truly committed to the 10 core commitments and did them with me for a year that didn't go to the top. I don't have that person. I have a lot of people who faked it, trying to shake you out, said they were doing it when they weren't doing it, okay? But I don't have one person who did it. Remember, I keep on saying, is the way you get an organization doing it is how you do it, okay? It is the biggest secret of this business. You're not going to get an organization doing it if you're not doing it. Okay, in that process, what's going to happen is you go along like this, there's going to be a lot of ups and downs, just like it is in everything in life. There's going to be a lot of ups and downs. What that means is one of the things you're going to have to be a leader in this business is you're going to have to become a problem solver. I see people get all frustrated with problems. I go, thank God you got problems. Quit wanting what you don't want. If what you're doing doesn't have problems, there's no opportunity. You understand that? You know, you can determine the size of a person by the size of the problems that get them down. You can determine the size of your check by the size of the problems that you're able to solve. There's going to be problems. There's going to be problems with your downline, your sideline, your upline. There's going to be problems with somebody in the home office that doesn't quite get it yet. There's going to be problems with the provider law firm. There's going to be problems with a lot of things, okay? There's problems in everything, okay? You have got to become a problem solver. I mean, if all you want is small problems, what you need to do, here's a good small problem thing. If all you want to do is be able to go, here's a little brown sack, I put the cans in the bottom and the bread on the top. Okay, little sacker boy at the grocery store, simple problem solving, but you don't make much money. You don't make much money doing that. You have got to not run away from problems, but attack problems, okay? You got to not let problems get in the way. There's going to be a ton of problems between now and freedom and financial independence. That's the way it is. You determine the size of a person by the size of problems that get them down. You determine the size of your check by the size of the problems that you can solve. You got to change your thinking. You got to change your philosophy, which changes your attitudes. So when you run into that problem, which is the action, you have a positive philosophy about it versus a negative philosophy about it. You understand? That's why one person takes the exact same problems, because believe me, every problem you got, hundreds and thousands of people before have had the same problem. It's going to be your attitude about that problem, which backs up to your philosophy. What is your philosophy about problems? Thank God they're here. Thank God they're here, okay? Now, if your problem's a bad one, like Excel just had, a company in this industry went bankrupt, that's a bad problem, okay? Bad problem. That's not what we're talking about here, okay? I'm talking about problems in growing your organization. So you're going to have to be a problem solver. Here's one thing I learned a long time ago in problem solving, is a lot of times I'd come up against a problem, and I really didn't know how to fix it, okay? I really didn't. You know, it was there and it's in front of me. And what I would do, and it's a great trick, is I'd visualize somebody that I looked up to, how they would handle it, okay? And I'll give you you only need to visualize, in my opinion, one person in this company, okay? You run into a problem out there, whatever it might be in building your prepaid legal business, just visualize what would Harlan Stonecipher do if he ran into that problem. Because I want to take you back 30 years in time. 30 years ago when Harlan started, think about it, there was Harlan Stonecipher. He'd never really been in business, he'd been a teacher. He had this idea to start this prepaid legal services deal, okay? Never been done in North America before. You understand that? The company's opened. It's got this teeny-weeny office. You can almost see the office. It's a little office in Ada, Oklahoma with a little dial phone. You know, a little office. You can see it, right? He probably one or two employees, and here's Harlan, the teacher, and he's doing this on the side, gets his little business started, okay? He doesn't really know much yet. He's just getting started. He has an idea. He has a dream. Now, you understand, he had to go out. You understand there was a time there was not one person that had a prepaid legal service in this country. He had to call on somebody and convince them to buy the first fax machine. That's hard to do. You know, the first fax, you ever thought about that? How'd you get to sell the first fax machine? Thank you. What do I do with it now? You know, well, wait till I sell the second, and you'll have somebody to talk to. What if I don't like them? I don't know, you know. He had to go out and sell the first legal system. So he goes out, he goes to people in Ada and goes, hi, you know, Harlan, I've started this company, and here's what I'm doing. They're looking like, yeah, who ordained you to do this, you know? But he went on, and all of a sudden he got a few people to buy the membership. Now, he had to get an attorney. Now, you think you walk in the biggest law firm in all of Oklahoma, says, knock, knock, my name is Harlan Stonecipher. You guys don't know what you're doing. I'm going to revolutionize the legal system, changing paradigms and making it work for everybody, legal access to justice under law. You know, getting that speech, and I want to get this biggest, you guys to represent me. No, he didn't do that. They went to talk to him. You think the big law firms like we have today talked to him back then? No, he went and had to get the Class D attorney, you know, knock, knock, wake up on that bus stop, I need to talk to you, okay? You know, I know you got your law degree, but you aren't practicing law because you're no good, but I need somebody, okay? So he got a few people and he got a lawyer, right? This is what happened. It really is. So you get a few people and he gets a lawyer. All of a sudden, the few people, they have their problem. They send the problem over to, you know, these few people are sending him money. He's sending some of that money to the attorney. Now, the people who have a problem, they contact the attorney. The attorney's a bum, so he doesn't do a good job, so it makes the people mad. They quit sending the money. He has no money to send to the lawyer. The lawyer quits, and the people quit. There's Harlan sitting there with his great running business, okay? So what did he do? Went back out, he got a few people, sit still. I got more people. Went back, got a lawyer, sit still. They started sending him some money so he could send the lawyer some money. They had problems. They contacted the attorney did a bad job. They would quit. He had no more money coming to him, so he couldn't pay the lawyer, so they quit. That was Harlan's career for years and years. I just described Harlan's incredible start, okay? Every person in this room has had a better start. Now, prepaid legal is the biggest legal entity in North America now. When you talk to Harlan, he says, I only knew one thing, go forward. That's all I knew how to do. So, did Harlan really have the hows down? Do you not think we have better hows today than he had back then? What did Harlan have? He had a good attitude. He had the right philosophies. See, when I say I think about, when I visualize what somebody would do, it's not what they would do, it's how they would do it. You get that? It's how it always has been. Just like that guy when I was talking about him, he was in front of those people for 3 years and failed, and all of a sudden it worked for him because his attitude changed. If you got a problem out there, when you're going to run the problems, get the Harlan attitude. Do you think about the worst problem that's happened to you in the last month in this business. Do you think Harlan would have quit over it? Do you think he would have quit? Do you think, oh my God, he just melted down? No. He went forward. He had a good attitude. He had a good philosophies, and he had a good vision. He didn't have a good how. The hows never matter. They never matter. That's the problem. We're all thinking that's what matters. It's trivial, okay? If the hows mattered, the professors would be the millionaires in this country, okay? They would be. It's not what matters. Trust me, I want to know the hows. Don't get me wrong, okay? But it's not what makes people. So when we run into a problem out there, what you got to do is visualize, think what Harlan would do. What you're going to think about is his philosophies and attitudes, okay? Okay, before I get into the training, one last one. And then finally I'll talk a little bit about this stuff that doesn't matter. The other thing you have to do, understand this, when you got into the business, or somebody gets in this business, it's no different than anything else you've done in your life. When you first get started with something, guess where you're at? You're sitting here, you're at the bottom, okay? And you want to go to the top, right? What happens when somebody gets involved in something, where are they at that moment in time? They're at their lowest level of knowledge and their highest level of anxiety. Is that not an invitation for failure? When somebody gets involved in your business, this is why I want to keep it's very simple for your new people. Don't complicate it, because they're at their lowest level of knowledge and you're cramming, doctorate stuff into a kid in these diapers, okay? He's at his lowest level of knowledge, and you're just making so he doesn't believe he can do it at all. He's at his lowest level of knowledge and highest level of anxiety. The more you cram on him, the more the anxiety you increase it, okay? And the more, he doesn't think he can get it done. So he's somewhere here, he or she, okay? My goal is to do what? Increase their knowledge, reduce their anxiety. It's a simple goal, okay? This is whether it's in prepaid or anything else you do in your life. I found that there's a 4-step process I've used my entire life that fixes this, okay? The first thing, it's very simple, y'all agree with this, was learn knowledge. You got to study. Okay, if you bought a franchise for $500,000 and I gave you all the stuff to read, how quickly would you know the success guide? Would you know that if I bought a franchise for $500,000, how well would you know the success guide? I'll promise you this, you would all know it better than you know it right now. Would you not all agree to that? There's not one person in here that would not know it better if I had $500,000 a year, okay? Learn knowledge, okay? You're going to have to study the manuals, you're going to have to listen to the tapes, you're going to have to attend the trainings that the company puts forth, okay? That's learned knowledge. That's the how. You got to have that. Don't get me wrong, okay? Learn knowledge. In my opinion, there's 2 types of learned knowledge. There's learned knowledge that you get from prepaid legal, on the company and the product and everything, and there's learned knowledge you get on yourself, personal development. Personal development, the books you read, the tapes you listen to, the seminars you attend, and the people you associate with, okay? And I'll talk about that later on, personal development. But there's 2 types of learned knowledge paths I want to go down, okay? The second form of activity, of knowledge, is activity knowledge. And this is the big one. What you got to do is move your learned knowledge to activity knowledge. You got to really understand this one, okay? This is why it's so important to keep it simple for that brand new person. Because if I'm cramming a lot of stuff down them, they won't step into the activity. If they think I got to go to that school and this training and that training, although they will eventually. We want them to go to them all eventually, but they think they got to do all that, they'll never begin a journey they don't think they can finish. I want them to think, I can do that. I have the time to do that. I would have a problem getting everybody I know to do that. But if you bury them with all these to-do that's, They don't even get started, and you don't ever get them past first base to second base. Just feed them what they need to know as a baby, okay? So I'm sitting there getting this activity knowledge. I'm giving them learn knowledge, and I move them to activity knowledge, okay? Emerson, one of the greatest philosophers of all time, Emerson said, do the thing and you'll have the power. Well, again, that's philosophy. Again, what does that philosophy do? It affects your attitudes, which changes your what? Actions. What was Emerson saying when he said, do the thing, you'll have the power? He was saying you learn in the activity, right? He was saying you learn activity. What did Watson, the founder of IBM, he said, Watson, the founder of IBM, they said, what's the key to success? He said, double your rate of failure. See, we're not taught that. We're taught to never fail. Are we not taught? That's what you're taught. Don't fail. Even your parents did that. Okay, don't fail. Failure is the key to success. Okay, don't make it. You can't get perfect at failure. Okay, I'm saying, but you got to fail your way to the top. Okay, but I'll tell you what, activity to me is one of the hardest things to move a person from. Okay, a person will get in and they'll study their book and they'll go to advanced product training and they'll do those things. But you've got to move them from that to activity. And the best way to move a person to activity is 2 by 2, you doing it with them. Okay, that's the number one thing, is to do those activities with them at first. Okay, the number one thing. But the thing for me is I find the number one reason why people don't engage in activity is because they have fear of rejection. You know, the 3 things I say when you're doing an approach, you're approaching a person to recruit them, sponsor them in the business, you're approaching a person to sell membership or to train them, okay? The biggest fear I think most people have is fear of rejection, and it freezes people, okay? I can just tell you this, it almost took me out. I'll never forget, when I got my college degree, finally, you know, but I graduated at the top of the business school, and I got hired by Texas Instruments, and they put me in sales. I'll never forget it. I was trying to talk them out of it and put me in management because sales scared the Jesus out of me. I mean, I didn't think I could do it, okay? And I remember my first sales call, I drove from Orlando to Gainesville, Florida, in front of this little stupid store, okay? I was picking on the smallest account I could find because if I was going to mess one up, it's going to be a small one, okay? When I sat in that parking lot with air conditioner on me for like a half hour, just getting the courage. Finally, I said, Jeff, this is what you went to school for. You got to do it. I went in there, made the worst presentation ever. This person hates Texas Instruments, I swear. Went back to my car, but I was excited. I remember I got back in my car and I drove the 2 hours back to Orlando, and I'd overcome a little bit of a fear. But quite honestly, this is the truth, I was thinking about going back to graduate school. Okay, ever notice that? You know, we get our degree, we run out from learn knowledge to activity. It doesn't work, so we go back to graduate school. Okay, and then we get our learn knowledge out, and we run back, and we get our doctorate. You know, we go out and go back out. I go back. I'm gonna be a professor. You know, can't get over to the activity. Okay, just can't quite get over that line. I was there. I was going to go back to graduate school. Okay, and so what happened to me, and I tell this story all the time, and people know this story, but it changed my life. It totally is one of the biggest things that ever came along. I was literally praying, like, help me. I mean, help me, help me, help me. And this article came along. It's like when you ask for something, it always comes. I'm reading this article. It has nothing to do with business, but it changed my life. But it really helped me go from learn knowledge, activity knowledge. I'm reading it. It's about funerals, okay? It says at the average funeral, there's about 10 people who cry. I'll never forget how that hit me. I went, 10 people, that's it. You know, I go through my whole life, I do all these things, and, you know, and at the end of it, there's only 10 people who even care enough about me to cry. That hurt. But I went to the next paragraph, and it got worse. It said, the number one thing that will determine how people go from your funeral to your burial is the weather. 50% of the people will not go to your burial if it's raining. Today here in Dallas would have been a bad day to go down. You'd have lost 50% of the people would have checked out, not because of how you lived your life, but because of the weather. And I thought to myself, you mean the weather? The weather will determine how many people go to my burial more than how I live my life? I was sitting there, I was going, you know, this bummed me out. I said, at that point in time, I said, you know what? I don't give a damn what anybody thinks about what I'm doing anymore. I don't give a damn, because if they're not going to cry at my funeral and they're going to leave the funeral procession because it's raining, why do I care what they're thinking? Do you realize how we spend our entire lives worrying about what people think of you who would not even cry at your funeral, and who would ditch out of the funeral procession if it was raining, and you let them worry you. Why be afraid of rejection? Okay, have you not noticed that? It drove, and when that happened, it freed me up like you would not believe, because I didn't care anymore. And so, I'm just telling you, we spend our lives letting people who do not matter, matter. You understand that? You've got to quit that. So that one of the greatest things, learn knowledge, move into activity knowledge, you just got to let it go. I always say let it go and just let it flow, okay? But, you know, it's an interesting thing how learn knowledge and activity knowledge works. You go through learn knowledge. See, you can't just go learn knowledge to the top. You understand that? And you just can't go activity knowledge to the top. You know, you motivate an idiot, and all you got is a motivated idiot. Okay, you got to learn. We understand that. You just can't go out there and just do it. You're not going to the top. Learn knowledge and activity knowledge work together. You learn, then you do the activity. Then activity changes your frame of reference on things. You go to learn knowledge. You go to activity knowledge, learn knowledge, activity knowledge, learn knowledge, activity knowledge. That's why you go always back to the weekly briefing. That's a learn knowledge thing. Then you go back out into the week. And that's an activity. And then you come back with that activity and you see the same presentation, but it's different than when you heard it before. I can take a book and I can read a book like How to Win Friends and Influence People. I can put it on my shelf, come back a year later and read that same book, and it's like somebody came in and rewrote the entire book. Why? I went through activity. That's why you go to the weekly briefing. That's why you go to the same training you've seen over and over and over. Because you go learn knowledge, activity knowledge. It's not, here's what people are saying. Well, if you just change the briefing, I'll go to it. Just change the training, I'll go to it. I need new learn knowledge. No, you go learn knowledge, activity knowledge, learn knowledge, activity knowledge, learn knowledge, activity knowledge. You climb the ladder, okay? They work together. You don't want it changing all the time. Because then you lose what? Your persistency and consistency that allows an organization to grow in depth. You don't go to work and say, I wish to change the furniture every single day. You know, you want the business briefing to be the exact same, but you need to go business briefing out into the real world. Back to the business briefing, out to the real world, back to the business briefing, out to the real world. You've got to go through learn knowledge, activity knowledge, learn knowledge, activity knowledge, learn knowledge, activity knowledge. They work together. They can't work separately. You understand that? So that's a big part of the learn process. And I think people make a big mistake. They say, I go to training and I'm trained. You're just orientated. You're on the first ladder, the first step of the ladder, learn knowledge. Second is activity. You go out and do it. Back to the ladder, learn knowledge. Activity, learn knowledge, activity. You step your way up, okay? So first one is learn knowledge. Second one is activity knowledge. They work hand in hand. The third one is modeling knowledge. And this is a big one. Modeling knowledge is really what I call the laws of association. You know, you need to learn how to model people who have been successful. You know, model knowledge is find the people around you who are doing what I'm talking about and model them. Don't model the people out there who are to the flavor of the month program and changing things and stacking things on and putting backflips in and all that stuff. You want to model people who are doing it right. Okay, I've always said you are the combined average of the 5 people you associate with the most. The 5 people, the way you walk, the way you talk, the way you think, the way you act, the way you dress. You cannot have a positive philosophy if the 5 people around you have a negative philosophy. Did you know that? You can't have a positive attitude if 5 people around you have negative attitudes. You're going to have to look at the people around you in your life, the people you have around you in your business, because there's negative attitudes and philosophies in this business. Not in this room, because you guys are here. You know they are. They're not here tonight. But they'll be griping about everything that you learned tonight that they should have been here to learn, okay? But with that, you know, you're going to have to learn, because some people you're going to have to limit time with. There's some people you used to spend 2 days with, you got to take it down to 2 hours. Some people you used to spend 2 hours with, you got to take it down to 2 minutes. And there's some people you used to associate with, you're going to have to disassociate with. There's other people you used to spend 2 minutes with, you need to take it up to 2 hours. Some people you used to spend 2 hours with, you need to take it up to 2 days. What I'm trying to say is you got to become very, 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 very aware of who you model, okay? Of who you model. It's a very conscious thing, because it will have more to do with your philosophy and attitudes, which have everything to do with your how than anything. Your associations, the people you work, that's why you have workout partner in the 10 core commitments, because that workout partner is part of that, and I'll get to that later on, okay? But this leads to the fourth one, and this is how they all tie together, and that is, the fourth one is teaching knowledge. And let me show you how this all works together. What you do is you go through learn knowledge, activity knowledge. Learn knowledge, activity knowledge, learn knowledge, activity knowledge, learn knowledge, activity knowledge, until you become worthy of being modeled. And once you become worthy of being modeled, you become the teacher, and guess what happens? you blow by that line. This is the whole secret of this whole business, okay? You, what I said is the number one thing is what you become. You're going to go out and find those 5, find those 25. None of us ever get past that line to this 125, 625, 3125, okay? You're going to spend 80% of your time up here getting this done, and it takes off down here, okay? But most people never get past this line. You know why? Because they want to go from learn knowledge to teaching knowledge. You know, what you got to do is you got to go learn knowledge, activity knowledge, learn knowledge, activity knowledge, learn knowledge, activity knowledge, until you become worthy of being modeled. When people say, you got it. Why are they going to say you got it? Because you are consistent, persistent, you're on course all the time. You become worthy of being modeled. Thus, you become the teacher. When you become the teacher, you break through that line. You understand that? It's a very simple thing. Your organization is not moving away from you because what you're doing is confusing everybody below you. And your learn knowledge, activity knowledge are out of sequence. You're not worthy of being modeled. Thus, you're not worthy of being the teacher, and your organization doesn't move away from you. They just work in sequence with each other. It's a very simple process. Learn knowledge, activity knowledge, learn knowledge, activity knowledge, learn knowledge, activity knowledge, until you become worthy of being modeled. Thus, you become the teacher, and your organization takes off from you, okay? So with that, I'm going to start into how this business works. Okay, before I go into the 10 core commitments, I'm getting into it. I'm going to show you how they evolved. This is a quick story, okay, a real quick story. Remember I go back to Albuquerque when I started? What happened to me is, you remember that flight attendant? Got the tape, finally watched it, says, how are those stupid people making that kind of money? Made a decision to get started. What happened to me is I was sitting there, and I had this 50 to 60 hour life that I was in. It's called my business, okay? All I could do was figure out how to steal 10 to 15 hours out of it. What I did is I used to play in that real advanced, those guys that play softball all the time, 100 games a year, travel everywhere. I was on one of the best teams in the country, actually. Really a good team. Left field, all my buds, have a beer afterwards, perfect life, I gave it up. I said, that's where I'm stealing my 10 to 15 hours, okay? You got to give up something. And so I had to still run my company, okay? And I gave that up. When I decided I was going to do this business, I'm going to be real quick here. First thing I decided is I was going to do a meeting every single week. There wasn't one in Albuquerque, remember? So on Tuesday night, I picked to do the meeting. This is not how to do it. I'm just telling you a quick story so I can get into how the 10 core commitments came about. Because these next 4 months is where I came up with the 10 core commitments, okay? That's worked every single time. I decided to have my first meeting. I was in my first month. My first meeting, I had 5 people over. They all said no. So I went 0 for 5, okay? My second meeting, I had 6 over. 1 said yes. He worked for me. He had to, okay? So I went 1 for 11. I went 1 for 11. Good batting average, okay? So Tuesday night, I had my meetings. In my first month, those meetings were like 5 to 10 people. I don't know if you can read this. 5 to 10 people. And I started on Thursday a training. I really recommend that you have a weekly training. I really do. And I'll talk about that later. Weekly training, and all you teach is this. Okay, the Getting Started Right book. Just teach it, the simplicity of it. But I had a training because I wanted to move whoever said yes into a good training that is what? Duplicatable. See, I knew if you had a training you could push somebody into, that is what? Somebody can work 5 or 10 levels below me, people I don't even know. Okay, I could push people into that in my little area. So I did a training every Thursday night. Those trainings were like 2 to 4 people. My first week, I didn't have anybody, okay, because I didn't get anybody. Second week, I had one person. I remember if he showed up and I looked and I go, what are you doing? I go, I don't know. Let's watch this tape. Okay, I was a neophyte in the business, okay? But that was my first month in the business. And out of that, I had one person that was kind of core. I didn't know they were core yet, but they were kind of in the game with me, okay? The other thing I did is on Monday, I used to go out to 5 lunches a week in my business, so I just took 1 lunch out of my week, and Monday lunch, and I said I'm going to turn that into my meeting with my key people, mastermind group. One thing I learned in my life is that if you ever read the book Think and Grow Rich, which I suggest you read, here's a book that was written well over 50 years ago. It took 20 years to write. It was a study of the 500 most successful people there are in the world. Now think about this. They took 20 years interviewing the 500 most successful people, broke it down to the 13 things that make you successful, the 13 things they had in common. I mean, if you just want to do one thing for your children, one thing, let them read that book and go over those 13 things with them. 99.9999999% of the kids getting out of school don't know the 13 things that the 500 most successful people in the world had in common. It's so easy. I always tell my daughter all the time, it's so easy to beat the masses. They're so boring, and they're so predictable. I mean, one little book, but they don't teach that in school, do they? So those 13 little things, but I'm getting off track here, but that book, okay, in that book, he goes through the 13 things. The number one thing he said you have to have is burning desire. He didn't say you have to know everything, did he? He doesn't even get into it. Doesn't ever get into it. If you go through it, there's not one how in there, okay? But burning desire is number one. But he also said the number one reason why people fail in life because they listen to their friends, family, and neighbors. He said because of that, you have to associate with what? People who see it like you. He called it your mastermind group. I called it the workout partner in the thing. It's not just one person, it's the group of people you surround yourself with. Remember I said you are the combined average of the 5 people you associate with the most. So what I decided on Monday, that's going to be my mastermind group. That's where I'm going to every Monday meet for lunch and be with the people who get it, the people who are in with me, you know, the people who are going to the top, the people who believe, okay? And so we'd meet at the Good Earth restaurant in Albuquerque. That first month, there was 2 of us because I only had one guy got it or was in with me, okay? We'd sit there, you know, we'd meet at lunch. He goes, what are you doing? I go, I don't know. What are you doing? I don't know. What are we going to do next? I don't know. What are we doing now? I don't know. Let's go do it again. We didn't know, okay? And we were just idiots in motion, okay, trying to figure it all out, okay? That's my first real successful month in network marketing, okay? But I could do that in 10 to 15 hours. I could steal that. I could do a Tuesday night meeting. I could do a Thursday night training, and I could meet for lunch, okay? And I had my little business model going that anybody in Albuquerque could plug into. Anybody in Albuquerque could push somebody to that meeting. Anybody in Albuquerque could get their person trained. And anybody who really wanted to get going in Albuquerque could come to that lunch. And I had my little model working. And I was still learning. I was going through my learn knowledge, activity knowledge. Now my first month, I'd done 4 meetings, opportunity meetings. I'd done 3 trainings because the first week I didn't have anybody. And I had about 3 luncheons. And do you not think by the end of my first month, I kind of had it down a little bit? You know, I'll tell you one thing. Every person in here, you want to explode your group, go rent a hotel room for just your group. I'll tell you what, it'll get you going. I mean, you wouldn't just bring one person to the meeting like you do. Because that'd be embarrassing to stand in a room that you rented, and they're sitting in the chair, and you go, thanks for coming to my meeting, you know? And you just talk. I mean, I had to get 5 people to my first one. I had to get 6 to my second one. I got 13 to my third one, okay? But my first week, you know, month, I had it going a little bit. I didn't make no money. I'd invested way more than I made, but what I'd invested in more than anything else is I'd gone through learn knowledge, activity knowledge, learn knowledge, activity knowledge. I was getting it down. I wasn't worthy of being modeled yet. I ain't got that far yet, okay? So I go into my second month. This turns into about, the meetings grew from like 10, went up maybe as high as 20. This was about 5 to maybe 8 people. I had 2 people that, you know, this person eventually failed. These 2 here went to the very top with me, okay, but in the company. And our little luncheons grew to about, 3 to 5 people. We're showing up at the Good Earth restaurant every single Monday for lunch, okay? But now I'm getting down the road. I've done 8 meetings. I've done 7 trainings. I had 3 people who kind of got it with me, you know, and we had our little luncheons, and we were getting to know each other. People at Good Earth restaurant knew where we were at. We had a little corner over there we always sat in, okay? I was going through learn knowledge, activity knowledge. I hadn't made a bunch of money. Nobody knew anything, okay? The third month, it was starting to pick up. This grew all of a sudden to about 40. This grew to about 15. It's always less, okay? They would come to the training. About another 3 people showed up over here, and our luncheons were now moving to about 5 or 10. So I'm 90 days in the business. I've done 12 meetings. I've done 11 trainings. I've had about 10 lunches, kind of getting it down. Okay, haven't really made any money, but I'd gone through a lot. Now you ask yourself, in your first 90 days, have you done any? You guys got meetings. That's your biggest problem. You got a meeting, you just plug him into it. You can sleep at the back and say, Rick doesn't know what he's doing. Just the same boring meeting every single week. Yeah, boring Rick. Okay? Or you can be the person who brings life and energy to this thing. Okay? You know, I didn't have a choice. I think the best thing that happened to me is I didn't have a choice. Okay? I had to go out and through it. The 4th month, it was all the magic happened. All of a sudden, this meeting exploded to about 80 plus. The trainings exploded to about 30 people. But a few more people showed up. I said to say maybe another 3 I thought were good. And we had to take a back room over there. We were having like 10 to 15 people at lunch. Okay? I was 4 months into it. I'd done 16 meetings. I'd done 15 trainings. I'd had about 14 lunches, and I was going, okay? The other thing I used to do, and I just forgot to mention this, is on Sunday night, it's the only time I took Sunday night and Wednesday night to make phone calls. That was it. I didn't make calls any other time, really, unless I had to make one here or there, that type of thing. But I had a business I had to run, Okay, I didn't have time to do this stuff. Sunday night, I made my calls because in 3 hours, I can do more on a Sunday night in 3 hours than you can do in 15 hours the rest of the week. Because it is proven not by me, but by the phones. People are at home, they're rested, they'll take your calls. Okay, so I just like getting my calls in on Sunday because I went into Monday kind of knowing what my week was going to look like. So I just sat there and I just made my calls on Sunday night, trying to get people to the Tuesday meeting. Wednesday night, trying to get people who saw it to the Thursday meeting. So there it was, my little 10 to 15 hour a week model. I showed up Tuesday night, showed up Thursday night, I had my little luncheon, and I made my calls, okay? 120 days into it, I hadn't really done a lot, okay? I hadn't made much money, but it all started to happen, okay? And things, that same group here, I ended up with 7 people I call core of that whole thing. That is the group. Those 7 were the people that took me to the very, very, very top of that company. Not one of them was a network marketer, okay? And this is the same group that became one of the very top in North America and became #1 in Europe. #1 in Europe, and there wasn't one network marketer in it, okay? But what we did is we committed to this process, okay? So here's the things we learned. I'm just going to kind of go through the 10 core commitments. We have what's called a CFT, or Certified Field Training Program. This is designed to get your upline sponsorship, mainly the person who sponsored you, to work with you to get you off to a good start. How we define that is to be CFT qualified, you have to go out and bring in 3 new associates with a membership, or go out and sell 5 memberships. Now in this process, you're going to really learn the basis of how to do this business. And here's one thing I want to suggest to you. As you go through this, as your sponsor shows you how to do this and takes you to become CFT qualified, understand you're going to turn around and do the same thing. What I mean by that, you're going to be working with your upline to get your first 3 new associates in and get them 3 memberships. What you want to be thinking about, though, is you're going to turn around and work with those same 3 associates and help them do the same thing. So the CFT program is designed, #1, to get you off to a good start, to teach you the business, but #2, so you can learn what you need to do to get your people off to a good start. I talk about the game plan interview. I'm going to talk about what I did with every person when I sat down with them in this training. In that Thursday training, that was my little game plan interview, doing this training. I'll tell you what, this was the most important thing I did. That meeting was good. But it was the training. If I did good trainings, the meetings grew. If I did bad trainings, the meetings didn't. It was everything. What I did on Thursday had everything to do with making Tuesday go, okay? And I loved getting them to that meeting and training immediately because I could get the person going, okay? And that's something that can work, in depth and duplication for me. If somebody ever says, I can do what you're doing because I can send anybody to your training, okay? I have the time to do it because you're doing it. All I got to do is show up and leave, okay? And I wouldn't have a problem taking my friends here because you're being professional, okay? So the first thing I ask for everybody is be here a year from now. That's the first core commitment I believe in. Be here a year from now. Because I used to say to everybody, listen, I'm going to do this. We all looked at the same tape. We all saw the same stupid people making a lot of money. We're going to figure this thing out. And I was really saying that. I'm trying to find a group that's going to go do this with me because I'm going to figure this thing out. I'm going to make the money they're making. Are you with me or are you not? I don't have time to mess with people. I really had an attitude about it. I wasn't mean. I says, I'm just looking for people dead serious. Are you going to be with me for a year? What I mean by that, will you be at every opportunity meeting with me? Because I'm going to be there. You're going to be at every training with me because I'm going to be there, okay? I was looking for that group of people, that core group of people. Trust me, many came and went. Many came and said yes and didn't do it. The vast majority of people said they're going to do it and didn't do it, okay? But through the process, got them to the meeting, got them to the training. Some did, some don't. This is the most important thing I did right here, the training there. And this was probably the most important thing I watched was who are my core people. And here's how I influenced my core people the most over in that luncheon every single Monday, okay? The second commitment was I had everybody, we were in a personal development mode. Because I just believe from the bottom of my heart, if you study the great companies in this business, in this industry, you study the great organizations, they all are built on a foundation of personal development. I can sit and watch. From my position prepaid, I get to see the organizations are growing. Understand this company, as it's growing, we have organizations that are growing straight up, organizations are growing some, organizations are flat, and organizations are going down, believe it or not, okay? Almost exactly one of the key things you'll see the organizations are growing is they have personal development in their business. It's that way in the industry. It's in that way in every great organization. You're in the people business, okay? And so personal development is a simple thing. I just ask people to commit to this, reading good books, listening to good tapes, attending some good seminars, and associating with positive people. And I don't ask them to do a lot. Simple as reading if you read, I ask people, can you just read 10 pages of a book a day? Of a good book, not Madonna, a good book. Think, Grow Rich, How to Win Friends and Influence People, a good book. You know if you read 10 pages of a good book a day, that's 3,650 pages a year. That's about 10 books, right? 10 to 12 books. You realize the average person when they get out of high school reads one book? So if you get your organization reading 10 pages of a good book a day, you can separate them from the masses, and they need that because they run into all that junk out there. You know what did Napoleon Hill say? The number one enemy you got is your friends, family, and neighbors. I didn't ask them to read a book. I said 10 pages of a book a day. I didn't ask them to listen to a whole set of tapes. I asked them to listen to 15 minutes of a tape a day. Turn your car into a drive-time university. I didn't ask them to attend every seminar I came to town. I said once a quarter we found one and we go to it together. You know, and like Jim Rohn came in town, we'd go to that and learn what he had to say and then bring that back to our mastermind meeting on Monday. And who are the people who went to that with me? Only the core people. Only people who were in my mastermind meeting on Monday. That was the group that we're doing this with, okay? So, and the other thing is laws of association. Who was I associating with? This core group of people. There was the most of the people come to the meetings, go to the trainings, disappear. Come to the meetings, come to the trainings, disappear. But there's some who dropped into that core. They were the people who were in it with me. That's the people I associated with, okay? So that's who I work the personal development with. Not the vast majority don't. I mean, everything you need to know is at the library. Nobody goes to the library. Everything you need to know is in books. Nobody reads the books. We have this society that's becoming obese. There's more information and knowledge about health than there's ever been, and we're getting worse. So, I mean, come on. I mean, the knowledge is there. You just got to find people who want the knowledge, okay? So personal development, got to get people going down that thing. The third thing is a workout partner. This is my workout partners, the people in that mastermind group. I've gone through this already. Napoleon Hill, what he said, you got to have your mastermind group because you've got to inoculate yourself from all those negative influences. That has nothing to do with prepaid legal. It has nothing to do with this industry. It has to do with everything. I had to do the same thing in Texas Instruments. I had to do the same thing in Center of America. I had to do the same thing in Data Direct, and I've had to do the same thing here. And you're going to have to do the same thing in everything you do in your life. There will be the negative people and the positive people, and you've got to consciously find those positive people and get around them and make them your workout partner, okay? The fourth core commitment that I got going with my group, and I did this in the training, is I asked everybody to do 2 exposures a day. 2 exposures a day. Why 2? Because everybody can do that. Here's what I call an exposure. Get a tool into somebody's hand. You know, a lot of people say an exposure is get a tool into somebody's hand and get them to listen to it. That's a better exposure. I agree, okay? But I just want you to get it in their hands. I get a new person, you know, and they've got fear. I just say your goal is to get 2 tools out a day. It could be 2 audios. And what I say is if it's 11:45 at night and you haven't done your 2 exposures, what you do is you sneak out of your house, you throw 2 out in the street, and you run back in your house, okay? Because I'm asking you to commit to 2 exposures a day. Now, we all know that's a pretty stupid exposure, right? But I'll tell you what, that sounds stupid, but I was adamant about that. I go, because here's what I knew. You would eventually start going, you know what? For a week, I've been throwing 2 out there, and my front yard's got a bunch of tapes in it. This is stupid, but I will have learned a little bit. My activity will have loosened up a little bit, and I will be willing to maybe walk out to the street now. You know what I'm saying? But if you said you got to go all the way out there, you got to do all these fancy presentations, you got to get it in their hand, you got to change names, you got to get their phone number, you got to exchange cards, you got to ask them, you know, what are you going to do if, you know, they're going, huh? Now, some person come to your business, they've sold Canon copiers their whole life. They can do that stuff. I'm talking about get a person started. That's what I'm talking about, 2 exposures a day. What I call an exposure is getting a third-party tool in front of somebody, okay? I know we're going to improve the exposure as we move along. This is where people get confused with my presentation. They think I'm saying don't do that other stuff. No, trying to get kids in diapers started, okay? You understand 98% of the people can't sell? Do you understand that? You really can't. I mean, I drove a big solar company. Maybe it's 95, maybe it's 99, maybe it's 90. I guarantee it's not any more than 90% can't sell. Okay, it's not. I don't think 10% can sell. Do you really think 10% can sell? They can't. Okay, really can't. But they can share. Everybody can share. Okay, and so, but doesn't mean they can't sell eventually. But you've got to get them starting at little baby steps that they believe will work for them, okay? So I'm just asking them to do 2 exposures. Now, it sounds stupid to go out and throw 2 in the front yard, but eventually go out and hand 2 somebody on the sidewalk. Eventually, they'll start getting things down as they go to the meetings. They go out there and do it. They go back to the weekly meetings. They go to the trainings. They go to advanced product training. The stuff starts getting ingrained in them, and all of a sudden, they get better at it, right? I just want 2 exposures a day. That's the commitment I ask for. Now, people, There's not a bigger return on investment that you can make as a person. Just think about this. You as a person, let's just say you're going to do 2 exposures a day. Let's just say you're going to do an audio. You know, it doesn't have to be anyway. It could be an audio, a CD, a DVD, a conference call, a call-in line, internet site. There's so many third-party exposures. I just want it to be third-party. I've always said, if your mouth is moving, you better be pointing at something. Because what you are is the messenger, not the message. You are not the message, okay? Because when you are the message, they say, I can't do what you're doing. I don't have the time to do what you're doing, nor do I really want to do what you're doing, my friends and neighbors. When you're the messenger, they say, I can do what you're doing. I have the time to do what you're doing, and I wouldn't mind doing that to my friends, family, and neighbors, okay? When you're the messenger, it will work in depth. It will work with people you don't know, because you can train that. It will work 1,000 miles away from you, and a dud has a chance with a stud when he's the messenger, not when he's the message, especially when in diapers. And when he gets out of graduate school down the road, he might have it down, okay? So, just think about this, 2 exposures a day. You go out and do 2 a day. Let's just say you do that 250 days a year. I'm not going to make you do it every single day of the year, okay? I'm going to give you 115 days off, okay? 2 a day. That's 500 of them, okay? People think, oh, God, that's a lot of money. Well, it's an investment, okay? You've bought a franchise. You've got to make an investment. People, there's not a bigger return on your investment, ROI, it's an accounting little thing, return on investment, that you can get if you went and picked the number one, whatever that costs. Let's just say that 500 things you're going to hand out, it's going to cost you $500. I'm just using round numbers, okay? You could, if you went and picked the number one performing stock on a stock exchange in year 2005, which you're not, let's just say, but somehow you got lucky and you picked the number one stock and you put $500 on it, I will guarantee you your return on $500 doing 2 a day will blow that away. It's the best investment you can make. You got to change the way people think about this. Again, remember I talked about you got to get their philosophy changed, their attitude changed, so it changes their what? Their how. When I hear people go, oh, the tools cost money, I go, what are you talking about? You have got to get your philosophy and attitude changed so you can affect their philosophy and attitude so you affect their how. If your philosophy and attitude stinks and you agree with them just a little bit, then their how is going to fall apart too. Okay? But the number one thing you got to do is you got to be doing it. But follow this. They do their 2 a day. That's 500 a year, doing 250 days a year. That 500, I'll guarantee you, do you not think 500, some of those seeds are going to land on fertile ground? We're talking about 500. You think a couple are hit? You only need a couple to hit to give you a huge better return on investment than you'd be getting $500 put in the stock market, right? But it's not that is the number one investment. The number one investment you get is what? Learn knowledge. You did the activity. You did your 2, right? Then you go back to the weekly meeting and the training. Then you go out and do your 2 all that week. Then you go back to the trainings. You go out and do your 2. And all of a sudden, you start doing what? Become worthy of being modeled. Your organization sees you're doing it. They can sense that you're doing it because it's in your language. You know it when somebody's doing it, okay? It's in your language, and all of a sudden, they start doing it. See, what everybody's doing is hoping their organization's doing 2 a day when they're not. See, when I was running my company, I was doing mine. I never quit doing it. And even I had bad days when I did a bad job. I had good days when I did a good job. But I guarantee you, everybody in my organization knew I was doing it, okay? You could hear it in my language because I had all the stories that happened to you, you know? I knew everything that happened to you. I had every rejection you had. I knew it. I go, oh, yeah, this happened to me. Oh, I've had that done. Oh, I've had that success. They heard it in my language, so they fell in line. I was so persistent, consistent. What I was doing, it started working. If all of a sudden they said, oh, Jeff, it's changed from the 2 a day to now he's doing something else that's different a day. They lose their belief, okay? So you're doing your 2 a day, but now follow what happens. I keep on doing my 2 a day, 2 a day, 2 a day, which is I'm going to get great return on investment. But all of a sudden, through the first year, 5 other people get it. Just say 5. Okay? Now we got 6 of us, right? Doing it times what? Doing it times 2 a day, times 250 a day. That's about, I wrote this, it's about 3,000 exposures in the first year. Now, how much money did I invest? The same $500, right? Now what does my return on investment look like? It just duplicated. Now you're using leverage. Now you're getting the laws of duplication working for you. But if you don't do your 2 a day to get your 500 done in the first year, so now all of a sudden you got 5 other people doing their 2 a day, so they've got 2,500 plus your 500. Now you got $3,000 out there. You got $3,000 invested on your behalf, but you're only doing $500. The laws of duplication are working for you. You get it? But it will never happen if you don't do it. Now, all of a sudden, it's just like it takes 2 years, and you got another level. It goes down to 25. Now, you got your 25 doing their 2 a day, okay, times 250. That's going to be 12,000. What? That's going to be 12,500 in a year. You add that to the first 2,500 to 500. Now you're at 15,500. You don't think that's going to land on fertile grounds? You think some are going to land on fertile grounds? Of course they are. But what did you invest? You're doing the exact same amount of time, the exact same amount of investment, and all of a sudden you leveraged yourself from $500 in a year and 500 exposures a year to 15,500 exposures a year. And still you got the same $500, but now you got $15,500 being invested on your behalf, and you got it working. But that will never happen if you don't lock in on these simple, stupid, basic little things and ask people to do something that they believe they can do. Are you getting it? You know, I said all I did is master the mundane. I mean, I'm talking about mastered it. I didn't add anything to it. I mean, I meant that. Just get it out in somebody's hands. I knew eventually, and the only thing after you do 500 of those in a year, you're going to get it down pretty good, how to ask things and get their phone number. But you think that first time they're going to get it? This is where I get crazy over some of this training I see. I really get flipped out. I watch it, and people come in with all these techniques and all these skills and all this stuff, and you're just crushing that growth in your organization. Get them going on something they can do. They'll evolve. They'll get going. They'll go to advanced product training. They'll get a little bit better. They'll come to the meetings. They'll go to the trainings. They'll hear people how they're doing things. They'll start getting more belief in themselves. They'll start getting their self-confidence, their self-esteem up, and they start doing things better, okay? I'm just talking about how you get a person started. So just 2 a day. Now think about it. You take that one more level deep, that's 125. That is now 77,000 exposures a year. People, that was a small number for me. That was like a month for me. I mean, that was maybe a week for me when I was really rocking, okay, in my organization. Because I did what? I mastered the simplicity, mundane, stupid, 2 exposures a day and didn't complicate it, okay? And it just worked, and it worked. But if I hadn't kept doing it, it went to work. And if I hadn't kept teaching in that training over and over, the exact same thing every single week, the exact same meeting, the exact same training, the exact same meeting, the exact same training, exact same meeting, exact same training, doing the exact same activity, and all of a sudden it started working for me. All of a sudden I started getting persistence and consistency. All of a sudden the laws of duplication started to work. All of a sudden the organization started to move away from me. All of a sudden it was working for people 1,000 miles away from me I didn't know. 10 levels below me. A dud was able to do it to a stud, and my organization was moving away from me, okay? That's how I went from a startup in a company, the size of this company, to in a year to the top 10 and knew nothing about network marketing. Is that I learned all that in that first time, and we just became adamant about it, okay? So the 4th one is 2 exposures a day. The 5th one, I've already hit this, is attend the weekly business briefing. I was fanatic about the weekly business briefing. This is true. If you didn't attend the weekly business briefing, I didn't work with you. I loved you. You're a great person. Rock on. Show up when you want to. You know, I'm doing these meetings and trainings you plug me into, but you're not core to me, okay? If I can be here, you can be here. I'm looking for my core group, okay? Other people who want to come in and out, that's fine, but you're not going to ever build a large organization because you're going to learn knowledge, you know, activity. You're not doing what you got to do to go up that ladder, okay? But that meeting is everything. We all heard this, but if you're having a bad week, you need the meeting. If you're having a good week, the meeting needs you, okay? The meeting is everything, okay? To me, I haven't met the person in network marketing yet that became a millionaire that was not dedicated to the weekly meeting. Okay, remember, I was trying to find my 5 to 10 hours. Everybody can get to that one meeting a week. You need it. You need to see the presentation over and over and over. I go to all around this country all the time. I sit in the back and watch the presentations before I speak. Every single time I go, wow, this is a good company. You know, wow, that's a great product. You know, wow. You know, I get sold. I do. I swear to God, I get sold every single time. It inspires me every single time. You need it, okay? You have to go to it. You got to, and the meeting is the only way you can congregate the masses. What if you asked your pastor, rabbi, minister, what ones have I missed? Preacher, rabbi. I said rabbi. Yeah. You're writing. That's good. Okay. You know, what if that person had to go out and see the whole congregation every week? He could go 5 levels deep, 5, and he could go 25. He could get his 30. Could he get to 125? Could he get to 625? The only way you're going to do it is to teach in your group that you congregate once a week. And you've got to congregate. That's where what? Synergy happens. That's where, what does he say? The mastermind group. To do what? Inoculate yourself in the masses. That's why where 1 + 1 equals more than 2. When you can get a group of people together, you become more powerful, okay? It's a very, very important process. And you know, what I see people do, they'll come to a meeting for 2 or 3 times and they leave and they don't come back. They come back and expect everything to be the same thing it was. It's like you prime the pump. You bring the water to the top of the well and then you walk away for 2 weeks, you come back and you expect the water to be there. It goes right to the bottom. Your group sees you not showing up, they'll start thinking what? Remember, you don't show up, you now violate the persistency and consistency. They also think, well, you know, we can just come and go to these meetings because, you know, my sponsor just comes and goes to the meetings. So all of a sudden, you got a group of just coming and going to the meetings. And so you just got a group that's kind of in and out and, you know, gets inspiration every once in a while, and they just kind of drift away. I said to everybody, I will be at every meeting for the next 52 weeks. Are you with me or you're out? Okay? Biggest thing. I'll just tell you, the meeting was everything. I used to get out of I had my company I was running, and the meeting was going to be on Tuesday night, and I had to do the meeting, okay? I remember I told my wife and daughter, on Tuesday night, I'm going to be home at about 3 or 4 o'clock. Don't be there. Now, because I want to see them, so I needed to get ready. I'd come home, and they would be gone, and I'd come in, I would change, and I'd go for a run. Because you got to do whatever you got to do. If it's a bubble bath, what do you got to do to get yourself ready? I went for a run. I'd run like 3 or 4 miles just thinking about the meeting, get fired up, come back, and this is true, I'd laid on the floor in my living room with headphones on, listening to an opportunity meeting somebody else had done. Just lay there listening to it, thinking about my meeting, get up, take a shower, put on a fresh suit, go down there, carried my TV in, went in and set up the room, went in there. But whenever he came in, because those people coming in, negative and dragging, I was on fire. I was lit, I was fresh, I was energized, okay? The meeting was everything to me. That meeting got over, I was there until 12 or 1 at night, talking to every single last person who wanted to talk to me, okay? Because I was fired up. I did that every single Tuesday and Thursday. I took the meeting seriously, okay? I didn't drag myself in there. You know, like you see these people come in, they wonder, why is everybody around me so negative? You know, look at yourself, okay? I'm serious. You go ask. I used to come home every single time. It was like clockwork. Go for the run, lay on the floor, listen to an hour of a tape, get up, take a fresh shower, put on a brand new suit, go down there and kick butt. Okay, that was what I did every single Tuesday and Thursday as I was getting my organization going out. So I'm just trying to say, take it seriously. If you had $500,000, would you just show up at your business, dragging yourself in, making sure everybody around you is as negative as you are, dressed real clumsy? No, you would be sharp, you'd be on fire, wouldn't you not, right? Treat it like a business, okay? So the fifth one is attend the weekly business briefing. I just want to add something to that. You know, back when I was doing this, we weren't really doing PBRs. I love this PBR thing, okay? I think these private business receptions just leverages your business. See, the weekly meeting is the weekly meeting, and yeah, it's the #1 gathering. PBR, though, allows you to take the business out into the neighborhoods of private business receptions. And now that we got tools that support it, whether you're using the Secrets Out or whether you're using the one with Brian Carruthers and Darnell Self, whatever you're using, it could be anything. But again, what I'm saying, a third-party tool, to be able to go out to a neighborhood, get 4, 5, or 6 people gathered in a house, and be able to sit down and do a presentation like that, I think that is powerful because that's a way to take the meeting out into the field and then bring the people into the weekly meeting, okay? Very empowering thing. It allows you to work 7 days a week versus 1 day a week with meetings. It allows you to leverage into, you know, neighborhoods. It allows you to move. You know, if you have a meeting going on here, but you want to get something going to Louisville, you can get something started there with PBRs until you build enough people to get a meeting started in another city. It just gives you that freedom, okay? So I really like PBRs. The other thing I was always really strong with was luncheons. I did one luncheon every Tuesday. I do one every Tuesday. You know, I love luncheons. I love breakfasts because people will come to a luncheon and breakfast and won't come to a business presentation on a Tuesday night. You know that, okay? So, but I can get them there. They get excited, and all of a sudden I say, well, what do I do next? I go, you need to come to our weekly meeting. And they go there and they go, oh my gosh, it's even better. You know, you've seen that person goes to a PBR, they go to a weekly meeting, and all of a sudden they go to Super Saturday, and you just see how they move up emotionally. Okay, so the PBR allows you to go out there and get them where they're at, so you can bring them to where we're at, so you can move them to where we want them to go, okay? And so it's always, you know, always go to somebody where they're at. So I like PBRs and lunches, and I really like using a third-party tool at the PBR, because again, that allows it to do what? Duplicate. It allows everybody to say, I can be sitting at a PBR, and they use a tape. I can go, hey, I can do that, and I'd have the time to do that, and I'd be willing to do that to my friends, family, and neighbors. But if you get up there and do a presentation, they're going to go, Good company, good product, but I can't do what you just did. I don't have the time to do what you just did, and nor do I really want to do what you just did, my friends, family, neighbors. But if you use a third-party tool, they'll go, I can do that. So really, I think the PBRs can duplicate the same way the tools do, if you just keep it simple.